अरहंत सिद्ध सुर उपाध्याय साधु सर्व अर्थ के प्रकाशी मांगलिक उपकारी है। तीन को स्वरूप जानी रागते भई जो भक्ति काय को नमाए स्तुति को उच्चारी है। धन्य धन्य तुम से काज सब आज भयो कर जोरी बारंबार वंदना हमारी है। मंगल कल्याण सुख ऐसो हम चाहते हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है। हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है। So we begin on Dhan, that space of spiritual development. So there are 14 stages of spiritual development. Before we go on to the main discussion, there are some question answers taken from the preface of Samyak Gyan Chandrika, a commentary written by Pandit Todarmal ji on the Gomatsar Jeev Kand, Gomatsar Karm Kand, Trilokshar, Chapnashar, Labdhisar, 5 scriptures put together. There is a commentary on that, and the name of that commentary is Samyak Gyan Chandrika. And in that Samyak Gyan Chandrika, the first chapter are the question answers which we are discussing right now. There are 26 questions in all. We have discussed 10. Today we will be beginning with the question number 11. Okay. Hope everyone has taken a printout. Who has joined? Priyanka, you have taken a printout? Subhaji has taken out, Rajeshri ji has taken out, Jinali has taken out.
No, sir, I haven't. I actually came back from the vacation and then got busy with work. I'll
Okay.
take it out tomorrow, sir, for sure. At work, I will take it
Yeah,
out.
definitely. Okay.
My home printer is broken. Sorry, sir.
No problem. Okay, so today you will be able to share the text book.
I
I'll
can,
make
sir. I can share it by my phone. Give me just a minute, sir.
Okay. So I'll make you a host here or some other connection device you are.
Sir, I'll try to join in through the iPad because the phone screen will be very small.
Okay.
So, 1 minute, sir. Give me just 1 minute, sir.
Okay, no problem. So the last class, what we discussed in the 10 questions was that the concern with Todarmalji was that at many places he considers himself to be less intellectually developed, and he says that there are other people who are weaker than me. For them, I am making this scripture in the vernacular language, because the earlier scriptures were all in Sanskrit language and many people were not able to understand Sanskrit. So he is doing this in vernacular language so that the local people can understand. Then what else? Yeah. Then the other precautions that he's said about was that if he does any mistakes anywhere, the noble person or the gentleman would correct those mistakes and move ahead. Then the purpose of writing these scriptures, there were already scriptures, main scriptures over there. So what is the purpose of writing another scripture? So as he said that there are people who are weaker than me. For them, I have made this scripture so that they could understand little bit of it. Then why did you consult some other teacher, knowledgeable teacher? So then he said that due to the limitations of the current era, the knowledgeable persons are very few to be found, and those who are also existing, they are at distant regions, making access to them very rare. Moreover, age, intellect, strength are all become quite. Therefore, I have determined the meanings as far as I could. So this was the purpose of his writing the scriptures, and the This scriptures belongs to Karnan Yoga. So now he is from question 11 onwards, we would be looking at how a person who is biased with other three expositions like Pratman Yoga, Charnan Yoga, and Dravyan Yoga. Todarmalji addresses them that what you are studying is good, but you should also study this, because understanding at which stage you are standing will help you to navigate in this path of spiritual liberation. Okay, if you don't know where you are standing, which direction you will move. Okay, so we should always have evaluation of ourselves, where we stand, what are our strength, what our weakness, where we are vulnerable, where we are quite comfortable. All this will help us to navigate the different stages of ups and downs in the spiritual journey. Okay, there are some things that is not possible at householder level. Okay, it's only possible at monk level. So don't try to do such things. Okay, you see where you stand, and then accordingly you adapt whatever was you are capable of observing. Okay, so all these clarifications help us. In a Natak Samaisar written by Pandit Banarasi Das Ji, although it's based on Samaisar scripture and based on the Kalash of Samaisar, but Banarsi Das Ji included one more chapter of spiritual stages of spiritual development in it. So that from that perspective, we can understand how important is this in the path of liberation. Okay, so it's very important to evaluate where we stand, what are our strength, weakness, and chartered a path accordingly. Okay, in the scripture there is a general description, but what you have to do at your end is you have to customize it according to your strength, your weakness, your present eligibility, your efforts. Okay, and with all this you have to customize it according to the way it suits you. Okay, so there is a great bit of responsibility to know where we stand, and to know where we stand, these spiritual stages are going to help us immensely. Okay, unnecessarily you will not have fear also, and unnecessarily you will not have any tension also. So your journey would be very smooth. Okay, so Priyanka, I'll make you a co-host, or you are ready? Okay, I made you a co-host. In case you are able to share, share. Otherwise, everyone has scriptures as far as here it is concerned. Okay.
Where can I find the document?
It was shared in the group.
I can just document. I can't find that.
I'll just connect.
I will share it again in the group.
Please,
Yeah,
Shashikala.
PDF, what he has shared, I'll try to put it again.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So I have sent you personally also, Priyanka. You can just see.
Okay, I'm sharing it now then.
Whether he has sent, you got it, or I'll shall it send.
I have sent to you personally. You got it?
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, fine. So now question number 11, Rajeshri ji, you read.
Question. Among them, a biased follower of Pratmanyu Yoga says that in the present age, people's intellect is very weak. They cannot understand anything from such subtle analytic scriptures. Therefore, it is better to preach the life stories of the Tirthankars and others, which they can grasp more easily. By understanding such narratives, they may develop fear of sin and become inclined towards dharam. Here is the Pratmani Yoga that is truly effective in practice. Answer. Not all souls are alike. We see that some have lesser intelligence and some greater. Therefore, one should offer instruction suited to the capacity of each individual. Moreover, even those with dull intellects have been seen to become more intelligent through proper instructions and dedicated study. Hence, this scripture is certainly effective for those who are already intelligent. And for those with lesser intellect, they can be guided by the more capable, learning the general and specific nature of stages such as gunstans, and therefore be encouraged to take up the study of this scripture. Question 12. Shall I continue, sir?
Yes.
Here, a person of dull intellect says the Gomatsar scripture is said to be extremely difficult as it expounds mathematical principles and contains many profound and unique doctrines. How can we possibly enter into or comprehend such a text? Do not be afraid. Answer. Do not be afraid. In this vernacular commentary, the meanings involving mathematics and similar matters have been made simple and easy to understand. Therefore, comprehension is no longer difficult. Within this scripture, some portions are general, some are specific, some are easy, and others are challenging. If you are able to study the entire text, that is excellent. But even if you cannot, then study whatever you can according to your understanding and do not let laziness obstruct your effort. You said, by listening to the narratives related to Pratmanya Yoga, the soul becomes fearful of sin and inclined towards dharam. However, in that case, both outcomes, fear of sin and inclination towards dharam, remain somewhat weak and superficial. Here, by knowing in detail the causes and effects of merit and sin, those same outcomes become firmly grounded. Therefore, one must study this scripture. In this way, the biased follower of Pratmanya Yoga is brought face to face with the value of studying this scripture. Shall I continue, sir?
No, only two questions. Let me discuss this. So in the first question, a biased follower of Pratman Yoga says that story only makes sense if people are weak and they are not able to understand this. So the stories will help them to understand how the great personalities face the challenges in their life and how they overcome those challenges. Okay. So then Total Mulji replies that not all souls are alike. We see that some have less intelligence, some have greater. Okay. Then one should offer instruction suited to the capacity of each individual. Okay. As I just now said that all are not at the same level. So you have to customize it according to your own strength, weakness, eligibility, ability and all. Okay. Moreover, even those with dull intellects does not remain always dull. They also have been seen to become more intelligent through dedicated study and proper guidance. Hence, this scripture is certainly effective for those who are already intelligent. And as for those with lesser intellects, they too can be guided by the more capable, learning the general and specific nature of stages such as the gunasthans, and thereby be encouraged to take up the study of this scripture. So that was question number 11. And then 12. So again that question says that a person with dull intellect says that we have always heard that this Gomatska scripture being filled with unique statements and mathematical complexities is extremely difficult. How can someone like me ever understand it? So the answer was, do not be afraid. In this vernacular commentary, the meanings involving mathematics and similar matters have been made simple and easy to understand. Therefore, gaining entry is no longer difficult. Within this scripture, some portions are general, some are specific, some are easy and others are challenging. If you are able to study the entire text, that is excellent. But even if you cannot, study whatever you can according to your understanding and do not let laziness obstruct your effort. So, if you don't understand the first time, you again read it second time. If you don't understand the second time, you again read it the third time. gradually you will see that the words and the meaning have got a connection. So the meaning automatically comes to your mind when you read the words. Okay. So maybe the first time you may not be able to understand clearly, but as you go on repeating again and again, automatically everything in your knowledge gets upgraded and you are able to understand it. Okay. So this is something I would say very surprising and unique to Jainism, that even those who do not know anything, by repeatedly studying, they also come to know. And once you develop an interest, automatically you start understanding better and better. By listening to narratives related to Pratman Yoga, the soul becomes fearful of sin and inclined towards dharma. However, in that case, both outcomes, fear of sin and inclination toward dharma, remain somewhat weak and superficial. Here means by studying the stages of spiritual development, that is Karnan Yoga, by knowing in detail the causes and effect of merit and sin, merit and demerit, punya and pap, those same outcomes become firmly grounded. They become more sharper. Therefore, one must study this scripture, that is of Karnan Yoga. In this way, the biased follower of Pratman Yoga is brought face to face with the value of studying this scripture. This scriptures means Karnan Yoga. Okay. Now the next question number 13. The biased follower of Charnan Yoga is now made inclined to study this Karnan Yoga. Okay. So question 13, Subhaji, you read. Next page.
One minute, Ji. Now, the biased follower of Charnan Yoga says, whatever the nature of the soul and karma described in the scripture may be, it is as it is. What accomplishment is gained merely by knowing it? If one renounces violence and such acts, observes vows, performs austerities like fasting, engages in devotion such as worship, name recitation of Arahant, gives donation, and remains detached from sensual pleasures and passion, then one attains spiritual welfare. Therefore, it is better to preach the conduct-oriented teachings of Charnani Yoga.
Stop. So let's understand the question. There are 4 points that we need to highlight in this question. The first point is about the vows. If one renounces violence and such act, observe vows. Okay. So Charnan Yoga prescribes certain activities through mind, speech and body, and vows is one of them. Okay. Vows. So this is the first point, is about the vows. The second in performs austerities like fasting. So second is austerities. That is also a activity from Charnan Yoga. Okay. Then the third point is engages in devotion, bhakti, such as worship, name recitation of the Aryans, and this is number 3. Then number 4 is gives donations, okay, and remains detached from sensual pleasures and passions. Then one attains spiritual welfare. So in this particular question, the biased follower of Charnan Yoga mentions that if you do some activity, then only you get fruits. And regarding the activity, he has highlighted 4 activities. First one is vows, second is austerity, third one is devotion, and fourth one is donation. Now in the answer, all the 4 activities would be clarified one by one. Okay. So when it starts, I will mention you one started. Okay. So first is the general introduction to the answer, and then we will move on to the 4 points. Okay. So continue reading.
To him it is said, O dull-witted one, the virtuous actions you have mentioned, such as the vows and other auspicious practices, are certainly worthy of being performed. However, without samyaktva, right belief, they are like a zeros without a digit, meaningless. Without knowing the true nature of the soul and other fundamentals, having samyaktva is like claiming the son of a barren woman. It is an impossibility. Therefore, the study of scriptures is essential for gaining knowledge of the true nature of the soul and related fundamental elements. Moreover, just as you have rightly said, that performing vows and other auspicious acts lead to the accumulation of merit, in the same way, the practice of knowledge, that is, understanding the nature of Jeev and related fundamental elements, is the highest and most essential auspicious act. It leads to the accumulation of supreme merit. In fact, even within the observance of vows and other practices, it is this pursuit of knowledge that remains central. This is what is taught. The soul who first understand in details the nature of the soul through texts such as Jiva Samasa, and then with true knowledge renounces acts like violence and adopts vows, that one alone is a truly a Viradi, vow holder. If
So this is the first point, okay? The soul who first understands in detail the nature of the soul through texts such as Jiv Samas, comma, etc. Okay? And then with true knowledge renounces acts like violence and adopt vows, that one alone is truly a Vrati vow holder. Okay? So this is first point. Then the second paragraph is also regarding the first point, it is continuing. And then the second point's austerity will start. Then after two paragraphs, only by knowing the detailed nature of Jeev and related categories such as Gunasthan. This is the third point. And then the next paragraph is fourth point. Okay. Donation. So continue, Subhaji. If someone
without knowing the detailed nature of Jeev and other fundamentals simply gives up certain violent acts and considers himself a Bradi, then he is not genuinely so. Therefore, even in the observance of vows, the practice of knowledge remains primary. Austerity is of two kinds: external, Bahiranga Tapa, Tap, and internal, Antarang Tapa, Tap. That which disciplines the body is external austerity, and that which disciplines the mind is internal austerity. Among these, internal austerity is superior to external. Fasting and similar practices are forms of external austerity, while the studying and contemplation of knowledge is internal austerity. Even in the scriptures, among the 6 types of internal austerity, Swadhyay is mentioned as the fourth. The only one greater than it are renunciation and meditation. Therefore, even in the pursuit of austerity, the practice of knowledge remains primary. Only by understanding in detail the nature of Gunasthan and other specific aspects of the fundamental elements, Jeev Adi, can only truly recognize the real nature of the Arihant and others, as well as one's own spiritual condition. When such recognition arises, the intense inner devotion, bhakti, that manifests within becomes profoundly effective, whereas devotion arising merely from tradition, family custom, or lineage yields only limited fruit. Therefore, even in devotion, the practice of knowledge is foremost. There are 4 types of donation. Dan. Among them, the gift of food, medicine, and fearlessness merely relieve the immediate suffering of hunger, illness, or fear of death, and the like. But Jnanadan, the gift of knowledge, becomes the cause for removing the suffering that has continued across countless times. Even among Tirthankas, Kevalis, and Acharyas, the act of giving knowledge holds primary importance. Therefore, Jnanadan is supreme. Hence, one who practices knowledge not only benefits himself, but also becomes capable of giving the gift of knowledge to other beings. How can one give the gift of knowledge without first engaging in the practice of knowledge? Therefore, even in the act of giving, it is the practice of knowledge that remains primary. Just as man who is born and raised among swindlers comes to regard them as his own, similarly, if someone happens by some circumstance to truly understand both his own lineage and the nature of swindlers, he internally becomes detached from them. Recognizing them as outsiders, he seeks to sever ties with them. Outwardly, he acts according to the nimitta, instrumental cause, external situation he finds himself in. On the other hand, someone else may continue to consider those swindlers as his own and due to certain reasons, even develop attachment towards them. Another person, in contrast, may turn indifferent after a conflict with the swindlers and renounce all interactions such as sharing meals and other dealings. In the same way, from beginningless time, all souls have been caught in the transmigratory worldly existence and have come to regard karmas as their own. Among them, if a soul, due to some instrumental cause, gains true knowledge of the jeev and karma, it becomes inwardly detached from karma and begins to see it as non-self. It then seeks to sever its connection with karma. Externally, it acts according to the nimitta, circumstances that arise. In this way, the detachment that arises through the practice of knowledge is what truly proves effective. One soul may continue to regard karma as its own and due to certain circumstances develop attachment toward auspicious karma. Another soul, recognizing inauspicious karma as the cause of suffering, becomes detached and renounces sensual pleasures and similar indulgence. In this way, detachment that arises without true knowledge results merely in the fruit of merit, but it does not lead to liberation. Therefore, even in detachment, the practice of knowledge is primary. Likewise, in all the auspicious actions as well, know that the practice of knowledge holds the foremost place. Observe, even for great as ascetics, Mahamuni, the two principal undertakings are meditation and spiritual scriptural study.
Scriptural studies, scriptural studies.
Scriptural study. Thus, by studying the scripture and knowing the true nature of the soul and karma, one must then meditate upon that true nature.
So you see, in the person who is biased to Charnan Yoga, he recommends 4 activities. The first is about the vows, the second is about austerity, third is about devotion, and fourth is about donation. In all these 4 activities, the primary importance is of practice of knowledge and not the activity that we are discussing. Okay. So everywhere it is practice of knowledge which is being highlighted. Okay. So Todarmalji tries to make understand the person who is biased to Charnan Yoga that there are other things other than Charnan Yoga also which are interesting and which propagates the practice of knowledge. Okay. So in all 4 of these activities, the practice of knowledge would be highlighted. So the first activity was about the vows. Okay. The soul who first understands in detail the nature of the soul through texts such as Jeev Samas, etc., and then with true knowledge renounces acts like violence and adapt vows. So vows are only adapted when you renounce certain sins. Okay. So he has renounced acts like violence, and then he is able to adapt the vows. That one alone is a truly a vrati, vow holder. Okay. If someone, without knowing the detailed nature of jeev and other fundamentals, simply gives up certain violent acts and consider himself a vow holder, then he is not genuinely so. Therefore, even in the observance of vows, the practice of knowledge remains primary. Okay. Now we will see another activity of Charnan Yoga called austerity. In that also it says that practice of knowledge is primary. Okay. So these austerities are of two kinds, external and internal. The external austerity, that which disciplines the body, is external austerity, and that which disciplines the mind is internal austerity. Among these, internal austerity is superior to external. Fasting and similar practices are forms of external austerity, while the study and contemplation of knowledge is internal austerity. Even in the scriptures, among the 6 types of internal austerities, Swadhyay, scriptural spiritual study, is mentioned as the 4th. Okay. The only ones greater than it are Vyutsar, that is renunciation, and Dhyan, meditation. Therefore, even in the pursuit of austerity, the practice of knowledge remains primary. Then the third point comes about the devotion. Okay. Devotion to Aryant Bhagwan and others. So when such recognition arises, the intense inner devotion that emerges is truly powerful and transformative. In contrast, devotion arising merely from family tradition or inherited custom yields only limited results. Therefore, even in devotion, it is the practice of knowledge that remains primary. Now, the last activity is about the donation or the gift. There are 4 types of donation. Among them, the gift of food, medicine, fearlessness, merely relieve the immediate sufferings of hunger, illness, or fear of death, and the like. But Gyandan, gift of knowledge, the gift of knowledge becomes the cause for removing the sufferings that has continued across countless lifetimes. So, the greatest of all the 4 donation is obviously the gift of knowledge. Okay. Even among Tirthankars, Kevlis and Acharyas, the act of giving knowledge holds primary importance. Tirthankar are Tirthankar just because they wanted to share this knowledge that they have acquired. Okay, that's why they have become Tirthankar. And Tirthankars are responsible for spreading of religion in any era. Okay. So Tirthankars, then Kevlis, the omniscients who are not Tirthankar, and Acharyas. Okay. The sadhus. The act of giving knowledge holds primary importance. In fact, in one of the lessons, it was said that what is the result of giving gifting knowledge, sharing knowledge. So the answer was that when you share knowledge with others, you automatically sign up on omniscience knowledge. Soon omniscience knowledge will be developed in yourself. Okay. So this is the biggest benefit. By giving gift of knowledge, you are moving towards manifesting omniscience knowledge. Therefore, in the act of giving, it is the practice of knowledge that remains primary. Just as a man who is born and raised among swindlers means cheaters, thug, comes to regard them as his own, Similarly, if someone happens by some circumstances to truly understand both his own lineage and the nature of the swindlers, he internally becomes detached from them. Okay. Recognizing them as outsider, he seeks to sever ties with them. Outwardly, he acts according to the instrumental cause he finds himself in. On the other hand, someone else may continue to consider those swindlers as his own, and due to certain reasons, even develop attachments towards them. Another person, in contrast, may turn indifferent after a conflict with the swindlers and renounce all interactions such as sharing meals and other dealings with them. In the same way, from beginningless time, all souls have been caught in transmigration and have come to regard karmas as their own. Among them, if a soul, due to some instrumental cause, gains true knowledge of the jiva and karma, it becomes inwardly detached from karma and begins to see it as non-self. It then seeks to sever its connection with karma. Externally, it acts according to the circumstances that arise. In this way, the detachment that arises through the practice of knowledge is what truly proves effective. One soul may continue to regard karmas as its own and due to circumstances develop attachment towards auspicious karma. Another soul, recognizing inauspicious karmas as the cause of suffering, becomes detached and renounces sensual pleasures and similar indulgences. In this way, detachment that arises without true knowledge results merely in the fruit of merit, but it does not lead to liberation. Therefore, even in detachment, the practice of knowledge is primarily. Likewise, in all other auspicious actions as well, know that the practice of knowledge holds the foremost place. Observe even for great ascetics. The two principal undertakings are meditation and scriptural study. Thus, by studying the scripture and knowing the true nature of the soul and karma, one must then meditate upon that true nature. Okay, so this is the end of question number 13. So Todramalji tried to persuade the person who was biased towards Charnan Yoga to turn towards Karnan Yoga. Okay, now the question number 14. Priyanka, you read.
Judge Nehru, sir. Question. Now, someone may argue if a person studies the scriptures extensively, yet does not renounce sensual pleasures and the like, then is his scriptural study truly effective or not? If it is effective, then why should noble individuals renounce such pleasures at all? And if it is not effective, then where lies the glory of the practice of knowledge? Jnanabhyas. Answer. There are two kinds of scripture studiers, Shastrabhyasi. One who studies for gain, Lobharthi, and one who studies for liberation, Dharmarthi. The soul who, lacking inner devotion, engages in scriptural study for the sake of fame, worship, profit, and spirit and similar purposes is Lobharthi. Such a person does not renounce sensual pleasures and the like. Or, even if he does renounce them, it is only to acquire fame, worship, or gain, and in this case, his scriptural study is not truly effective. That soul who studies scripture out of inner devotion, with the aim of attaining self-welfare, is a dharmarthi. To begin with, Jain scriptures are such that anyone who studies them with the intent of dharma inevitably ends up renouncing sensual pleasures and the like. For such a person, the practice of knowledge, jnanabhyas, is indeed truly effective. If, due to the overpowering rise of past karmas, the renunciation of sensual pleasures and the like does not occur, even then, because of the presence of Samyak Darshan, that is right belief, and Samyak Gyan, that is right knowledge, the practice of knowledge, Jnanabhyas, remains effective. Just as in the Asmyata Gunasthan,
Asanyam.
the state of, sorry, sir?
Asanyamatva.
Oh,
Asanyat. Asanyat.
Asayamatva.
Asanyat. Asanyat means fourth stage.
Okay. Gunasthan, the stage of right belief without conduct, even without renouncing sensual pleasures, one is still considered to be on the path of liberation. That is moksha marg.
So in this question, there are two types of seekers. Okay. One is greedy, lobharti, and the other is the one who is doing for liberation. Okay. So two kinds of scripture studiers. Okay. The soul who lacking inner devotion engages in scriptural study for the sake of fame, worship, gain, and similar other purposes is a greedy person or a lobharti. Such a person does not renounce sensual pleasures and the like. Or if he does renounce them, it is only to attain fame, worship, and gain. Even then, his scriptural study is not truly effective because his purpose is wrong. His purpose is to have fame, worship, and nowadays we have this likes and all, so many viewers and all. So that is not truly effective. The soul who studies scriptures out of inner devotion with the aim of attaining self-welfare is truly a true dharmatri. Okay. To begin with, Jain scriptures are such that anyone who studies them with the intent of dharma inevitably ends up renouncing sensual pleasures and the like. So the idea is, if you are engaging in something, of course you are already renouncing something. Okay. To renounce something, we have to focus on that. But here, when we focus on gaining something, automatically whatever we want to renounce, it automatically gets renounced. This is the true way. For such a person, the practice of knowledge is indeed truly effective. If due to the overpowering rise of past karmas, the renunciation of sensual pleasures and the likes does not occur, even then, because of the presence of Samyak Darshan, right belief, and Samyak Gyan, right knowledge, the practice of knowledge remains effective. The practice of knowledge remains effective means whatever you study, you are able to put it in action. You are able to implement it. You are able to apply in your day-to-day life. Okay. And when you apply these principles, automatically you gain happiness. Okay. If due to the overpowering rise of past karmas, the renunciation of sensual pleasures and the like does not occur, even then, because of the presence of Samyak Darshan, right faith, and Samyak Gyan, right knowledge, the practice of knowledge remains effective. Okay. So everywhere it is being highlighted that the practice of knowledge, okay, serious study, it's always helpful, it's always for the benefit of us, and it's really effective. Just as in the Asanyat Gunasthan, the stage of the fourth stage of spiritual development, where there is right belief but without restraint or without conduct. Even without renouncing sensual pleasures, one is still considered to be the path to liberation. So his belief has turned right, he is in the path of liberation, although he is not able to renounce anything right now. But still, because his belief is right, he is considered in the path of liberation. Okay. So this was question number 14. Now the 15th one, Sasikalaji, you read.
Read, sir.
G, G, excuse me, G, 1 minute, right? Is Aviradi is the fourth Gunastan, no, G?
Yes.
Is Asamyata, which Gunastan is that one then?
It is fourth only.
Fourth only.
Yeah. Avirati means non-restraint. There is no restraint.
Vowelless.
Yes.
Samyam also vowelless, no? It's Samyam, Asamyam.
Okay.
That is the
fourth
that
stage.
word is no synonym with the avriti. The Samyam.
Asanyat.
Asayam is synonym of avriti.
Yes, yes. Question 15.
15. I should know, sir. You told me, no?
Yeah.
Question 15. If one studies Jain scriptures with a true intent toward dharma, that is dharmarthi, then how can it be that he is unable to renounce sensual pleasures and the like? After all, indulgence in such pleasures arises from one's inner dispositions, parinamas, and those dispositions are within one's own control. Answer. Dispositions, parinamas are of two kinds, intentional, buddhipurvaka, and unintentional, abuddhi purvaka. That is without is applying logic. That is those dispositions that arise in accordance with one's deliberate intention are called buddhi purvaka. On the other hand, those that arises contrary to one's intention, that is due to karmic influence or destiny, Daiva Nimitta, that is, sir, afterwards you tell about little about the Daiva Nimitta, are termed Abuddhi Purvaka. Just as during Samaika, that is meditative equanimity, a virtuous person intends to keep their inner dispositions pure and wholesome. The auspicious dispositions that arise accordingly are considered Buddhi Purvaka, that is intentional. However, if due to the rise of karma, inauspicious dispositions arise on their own, contrary to that intention, they are to be regarded as abuddhi purvakaha, unintentional. The same way, one who studies Jain scriptures with the true intent of dharma does so with the aim of attaining detachment, that is vitaraka bhava, and renunciation of sensual pleasures. When detached disposition arises, it is buddhi purvaka, intentional and conscious. However, when feelings of attachment, saraka bhava, that is, appear due to the rise of contact, deluding karma, that is a charitra mokha, and one becomes subject to its influence, then those feelings are abuddhi purvaka, that is unintentional. Therefore, when one engages in sensual activity due to such involuntary feelings of attachment, which arises without one's control, it appears externally as indulgence in sensual objects. This is because external activity is always a reflection of internal disposition, parinama.
So you see, there are two kinds of dispositions. One is intentional. Intentional, there are different names to it, like consciously, okay, intellectually, then deliberately, then thoughtfully. All these are synonymous for intentional. Okay, intentionally, consciously, intellectually, deliberately, and thoughtfully. Okay, all these words are used for buddhi purvak. Okay, so there are two types of disposition. One is intentional and the other is unintentional. Those disposition that arises in accordance with one's deliberate intention, abhipray, abhipray, are called buddhi purvak. According to your understanding, if any any disposition gets manifested, these are called buddhi purvak. On the other hand, those that arise contrary to one's intention, okay, contrary, opposite to one's intention, due to karmic influence, okay. So karmic influence acts as an instrumental cause, okay, or destiny. Destiny means bhavitavya or inevitability, okay. It is also called dev, okay. In Hindi, it is one of the words used is dev, okay. So,
Yeah, this one, no, sir, Kala, that Labdi, that Panchalabdi, that one.
no,
Deva Nimita, that is that.
no,
Okay.
it is not that. On the other hand, those that arise contrary to one's intention due to karmic influence. So, karmic influence is one of the cause, and then destiny is another cause, okay, are termed abuddhi purvak, okay. Just
Sorry,
as
sir, 1 minute, 1 minute. That Hindi word, what you told, Bhavitvam, no?
destiny is
Bhavitavya.
bhavitavya. Destiny is bhavitavya.
Bhavitavya, that.
Yeah, bhavitavya. So when it is cause is karmic influence, that is instrumental cause, or destiny, it is termed as abuddhi purvak. Just as during samayik, okay, meditative equanimity, a virtuous person intends to keep their inner disposition pure and wholesome, right? You want to have only good thoughts when you are doing a samayik, when you are sitting for meditation, meditative equanimity. The auspicious disposition that arise accordingly are considered intentional, because that was your intention. You took a samayik just for the sake that you have good contemplation, you have good thoughts, okay, all these. And if that arise, then it is called buddhi purvak, because this is what you intended in the first place. However, if due to the rise of karma, inauspicious disposition arise on their own, right, contrary to that intention, okay, they are to be regarded as a buddhi purvak. Because when you sit for samayik, that is meditative equanimity, you are sitting it to for meditation, for contemplation, okay. So at that point of time, naturally the auspicious thoughts will follow, and that is called buddhi purvak. But due to the rise of karmas, okay, if inauspicious thoughts come, then we call it as a buddhi purvak, because that was not intentional, it is unintentional. In the same way, one who studies Jain scriptures with the true intent for dharma, okay, does so with the aim of attaining detachment and renunciation of sensual pleasures. When vitrag bhav arises, it is buddhi purvak, intentional or consciously. However, when feelings of attachment, okay, rag, sarag bhav, appear due to the rise of charitramonia, conduct deluding karma, and one becomes subject to its influence, then those feelings are a buddhi purvak. Okay. So buddhi purvak is intentional, abuddhi purvak unintentional. That you buddhi purvak is one, intentional is one which you have already thought up in mind. And if it happens accordingly, it is called buddhi purvak. And if something comes up which you have never thought about it, but it has come off all of a sudden, then we call it as unintentional abuddhi purvak. Therefore, when one engages in sensual activity due to such involuntary feelings of attachment which arise without one's control, it appears externally as indulgence in sensual object. This is because external activity is always a reflection of internal disposition. Okay. So, so when you are engaging in sensual activity, okay, so such kind of attachment, feelings of attachment, which naturally arise, okay, it appears externally as indulgence in sensual object, okay. This is because external activity is always a reflection of internal disposition. So our internal disposition and the external activity has a nimit-nemitic sambandh, instrumental cause and effect relationship. Okay. So this question was about buddhi purvak and abuddhi purvak. So the one that is according to your intention is called intentional, and one which is not according to your intention is called unintentional. Yeah, yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
clarify a small doubt, G?
Yeah.
Right, even if our intention is good, right,
Uh,
sometimes we also make things which is not needed.
okay.
Right, is that comes under Abhuti Purvak?
No, then it will be abuddhi purvak, right?
That is Abhuti Purvak.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that is correct only what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So buddhi purvak, like in for every action, we have two dimensions to it. One is that you want to intend to do, okay, that is called buddhi purvak, okay, and one that automatically happens, right? So now we are studying this Parmagam honors course. So intentionally you are planning, you are contemplating to understand the scriptures principles and trying to apply in your day-to-day life. Okay, this is what is your intention. But things happen according to the eligibility of the moment. Okay, so although you are studying to understand this principle and apply it in your day-to-day life, but due to the rise of intense passions, intense karmic passions, okay, you are not able to apply what you have understood, although you have understood very properly. But at the same moment, because of the rise of karmas, you are not able to apply. Okay. So then we would say that this is a buddhi purvak. Okay. So the one that happens unintentionally, which is against contrary to your belief, is always a buddhi purvak. And one which is according to your belief and understanding is all buddhi purvak. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So one more question we can take up, small one. Question number 16. Jinali, you read.
Question 16. If that is the case, then we too will indulge in sensual pleasures and simply say our actions are merely the result of karmic rise. Udayadhina. Answer. A
Udayadin.
fool. Huh? Yes, sir.
Udayadin.
Udayadin. Answer. A fool merely saying so accomplishes nothing. True attainment depends on one's inner intention. Abhipraya. Therefore, through the study of Jain scriptures, one must align their intention in the right direction. If inwardly one harbors the intent to enjoy sensual pleasures, then they cannot truly be called a dharmarthi, one devoted to righteousness. In this way, the follower of Charnani Yoga is brought to face the value of studying this scripture.
So, what was the question? If that is the case, then we will too indulge in sensual pleasures. And simply they say that our actions are merely the result of karmic rise. Because just now we were discussing intentional and unintentional. So unintentional is something which happens without our intention, and the underlying factor is the rise of karmas, okay, of the past. So here he says that I will indulge in sensual pleasures and say that because of my past karmas, I am forced to indulge in sensual pleasures. So then the answer says, "Oh fool, the one who thinks this way is a fool. Merely saying so accomplishes nothing. Whatever you say does not have any weightage. Okay, only saying does not accomplishes nothing. True attainment depends on one's inner intention. What is your thought process? What is your intention? What is your abhipray? You know. So there are three things. One is the activity, the external activity by mind, speech, and body. The second part is your dispositions. Okay. And the third part is the internal intention, abhipray. Okay. So what is the weightage of bondage of karma? So there is 0% bondage with the external activity. Okay. And disposition also account for 1% of bondage. 99% of the bondage is because of your inner intention. Okay. So if your inner intention is good, and even if you are committing sin externally through your mind, speech, and body, the bondage is negligible because your intention was not there. Okay. I'll give you one example. There was one lion who was hungry, and he saw a monk meditating in the jungle, in the forest. Okay. And the lion thought of consuming the monk because he was very hungry. At the same place, there was another animal called swine. Okay. Swine. Okay. So he saw that he could make out that the lion is on the verge of attacking the monk. Okay. And he had this compassion, he had in him the compassion feeling of saving the monk. Okay. So the lion tried to attack the monk, and this swine interrupted in between, and there was a fierce fight between lion and the swine, and ultimately both died. Okay. The lion went to the hell and swine went to the heaven. Why such difference? Because the lion's intention was to kill the monk. So his intention was of committing sin, violence. And the swine also fought, okay, and both died. But the intention of the swine was to save the monk. So the maximum bondage that happens is with your inner intention. What you think, how is your thinking, okay? So instead of improving the external activities, go for the improvement in internal inner intentions. Okay. So this was the question. Okay, 16th. Yeah. So therefore, through the study of Jain scriptures, one must align their intention in the direct direction. So one must align their intention, okay, in the right direction. So once you have aligned your intention in the right direction, although you will be committing some sins along the way, still you will not be binding those karmas. Another example I will give you. One monk was walking from one place to another place, and he was looking downward only, so that not even the smallest of insects gets hurt or is killed. Okay, that was his intention, and he was walking slowly, watching very carefully. Okay, but what happened, a small insect was flying, and while the monk was about to keep the foot on the ground, it came in between and it got killed. Okay, although it got killed, but the monk, who was already he was already applying due diligence. Okay, his intention was to save the smallest of the insect. So although insect was killed, but he never got the bondage of that scene. Why? Because his intention was to save. Another person who was walking, looking left and right, he was not looking at the ground, and he didn't kill any of the insects. Okay, still he is responsible for bondage of karmas because of his negligible behavior. Okay, so this is how the intention carries the highest weightage for bondage of karmas. So always have good intentions. Okay, and automatically your life will be smooth and easy. Okay, so it all depends on your inner intention, your abhipray, your thoughts, your reflections. Okay, all these matters. So instead of changing the external activity, instead of changing the disposition, first change the inner intention. And when the inner intention changes, the disposition automatically improves. It comes right, and then the external activity also uh, improves gradually. Okay, so the process would be, first repair, first do the changes at the intention level, inner intention level, and then of course the um, then also the disposition changes, and then subsequently the external activities also changes. So this would be the sequence of change happening. Okay, first of all inner intention, then automatically disposition changes, and then automatically the external activity also changes. Okay, so with this kind of intention, 24 hours you are binding auspicious karma. Okay, when you have this intention that not a single insect I should harm, with that intent, all the time you are binding auspicious karma. Okay, and the person who does not have this kind of intent, even if he is not killing a single insect, he is still binding infinite karmas. So this kind of calculation is something unique to Jainism. Nobody would believe this, but it is the truth. So inner intention means your belief level. Okay, so always go for the belief, develop the right belief, and automatically your intention will become good, and you will enjoy your life to the fullest. Okay, so with changes in intention, you can make a great turnaround in your life. Okay, the activities will also change. Okay, so first of all we should uh, make amends at the inner intention level, and then of course the dispositions will follow, and then subsequently the external activities. Okay, so the next tomorrow we will be starting with question number 17. If you have any question in today's discussion, we can take it up. Otherwise, we are good for the day. Any questions on today's discussion? So one thing I would like to highlight, that always have good intentions. Okay, and your life will good things will automatically come to you. Okay, never have any kind of malified intention towards anybody, because all the souls of this universe are God. Okay. See them as God. Don't see them according to their present modification. See them from their nature. And from the nature, all are equal. All are God. All are Paramatma. Okay. So when you think, when you align your thoughts in such a manner, automatically you have a very good feeling. You enjoy that feeling. Okay. And automatically your auspicious karmas are bound. Inauspicious karmas gets reduced. Everything happens simultaneously with good intention. Okay. So this is something that we need to improve from the intention level. Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Sir, I still felt like, when we are distracted during the contemplation, or like even when we are reading the scriptures, for example, for concept clarity,
Hmm.
we are reading and trying to understand, we get distracted and there are thoughts going on.
Right.
So we are still using a buddhi, our mental state, to think about it by distraction. So, sir,
Hmm.
how is it a buddhi purvak?
So, like your intention was to study the scripture and understand the scripture, right?
Yeah.
So, so that distraction that has come, that is abuddhi purvak, because you never intended it in the first place. Because of the rise of past karmas, this distraction has come. There are antray karma. So, what is the job of the antray karma? To cause hindrances in your whatever you desire to do, right? So your intention was to study the scripture, understand it, and in between the distraction has come. So it is called abuddhi purvak, unintentional.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so if you have good intention all the time, even if there is something something happening against the flow, never mind, because your intention is good, and maximum bondage is happening due to intention only. As I said, only 1% is bonded through disposition and 0% through external activity. So your external activity has no bondage, no bearance on the bondage of new karmas. Your intention is main. So we improve at intention level. We see other creatures as God like us, and automatically you will never have any ill feeling towards them. Okay. So the first thing that we should do is to understand our inner intentions. Okay. And once our inner intention becomes good, automatically good things flows in our life. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. निज निधि निज में बताई, यह अनंत उपकार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना सत बार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना